Okay, great. So today is part of the OnBoard Mastery series, and today's session is one of the advanced feature sessions, part 1, and I'll be talking about the topics that we're going to cover. For those of you that are attending live, you're all set so that you can talk. That way, if you want to unmute, we can engage that way, and I can answer any specific questions you have. If you're more comfortable using the chat, either chatting me privately or to everyone, you can do that, or of course the Q&A. So we have a small enough group. We just had one more join, but I definitely want to tailor this as much as possible. If you are returning and you've attended one of these before, thank you. I've been trying to do these group sessions to give people the opportunity to learn a little bit more about OnBoard, perhaps if you're a newer, or if you've launched, but launched with kind of a phase 1 approach. So the session that I did earlier this week, actually yesterday, was on the core features that you see here. And then the advanced feature training is 2 parts. So today we're going to actually do items 2 through 4. So messenger, tasks, some advanced permissions, and then also I think we'll have time to do analytics as well, meeting analytics. And then Friday is the final live session of actions, which is those are the approvals for voting, the surveys, and the electronic signature. So I'm going to be using my demo org, my demo portal. And if you guys know how to use the reaction feature, or if you can unmute, make sure, let me know if you can see my screen okay. I would appreciate it. All right. So hopefully, yep, hopefully everything's looking good on your end. You should be seeing my OnBoard instance. And I'm going to go ahead and kick things off with Messenger. So keep in mind that depending on the plan or the package that you have for OnBoard, you may or may not have all these features. So if you don't, and this piques your interest and you can see yourselves using this and having it help with different activities or actions or goals that you have for your board and your committees and your leadership, then certainly let me know and I can put you in touch with someone to give you some pricing. So Messenger is in the main menu, and I've just clicked on Messenger. So we have tried to build this comprehensive platform with all of these a full suite of different capabilities, so that if you have goals that are like, for example, I want all my communications to be through the platform, along with this being the central hub for all my meeting materials and all my resources, and you want to reinforce that theme, then we want to make sure that you use the tools that will help you achieve, those goals, those outcomes. So Messenger is one of those features or tools that supports communication and collaboration, and it can be used by anyone that has access to your portal. So unlike meetings where you have to publish them and people can only be readers, Messenger is one of the features that if you are an active member in your directory, you have access to use Messenger. So keep this in mind, because you might want to provide some coaching or guidelines or tips or training on the use of Messenger. So when someone goes to Messenger, if they don't have any message threads, you can see I have some in my view. It's really quite simple. So let me just quickly walk you through the mechanics of using it. So you would start with the compose. For those of you, obviously, that are familiar with using OnBoard regularly and setting permissions, this is going to look familiar to you, right? We have this flyout where we have our list of members, and then we also have the groups. So this is the same view that your members would see. So this allows them to choose from one or more people in the entire member list, or whatever groups they are a part of, they will see in the groups view. So if you are utilizing groups, and I would recommend that you do, if you're not, then if they're a part of a committee, they're part of the board, they're going to see any groups that you have placed them in. And then they could even start a conversation with that group. So, and as far as use cases, we'll talk about different use cases, but for this example, I'm just going to pick my testing group and select that radio button. So whomever's in that group is now going to be part of this thread as soon as I click the start conversation. So I've just clicked on that, and now it's basically giving me a box or a window, just like text messaging or other instant messaging tools. So I can just, be free to type and I can hit enter, or I can click the send arrow. So here it posted it. On the left, you can see I have a new message thread that identifies who I'm communicating with. So in this case, because it's a group, it's listing the name of the group. If it was an individual person, you would see that I'm just having a conversation with one person, or it would be separated by commas if it was multiple people or a mixture of groups and people. And basically, it's continuing that conversation in the same thread, even if it's about a different topic. So I sent this message out into the wild to my testing group. So whomever's on the receiving end, they're not always going to be logged in, right, to OnBoard. So how are they going to know? We are going to send them an email. So the system will wait 15 minutes, and it will be checking to see if they happen to be logged in and they've already read it. There's no point in emailing them. Most likely, they're not in OnBoard, and so it will send them an email after 15 minutes letting them know that I have started a conversation with them. It will have a button that they can click on that once they sign in, takes them right to the screen, so they can just start participating in the conversation with me. If you're not part of the conversation, if you're not part of that group or individuals, then you don't even see this. So just like most other things in OnBoard, when you click on Messenger, your view is personalized to you and what you have been given permission or access to. So they wouldn't know. In that same vein of thought, you might not know if some of your members are using Messenger, because if they start a conversation with Messenger and you're not on that, you won't have visibility to it. However, I have access to some usage analytics that will tell me if your organization is using Messenger. I won't know who, or if it's one person or two people using it frequently, or if it's a larger group, but I have visibility into that. So let me know if you have Messenger and you're not sure if people are using it because you aren't using it yourself. So let me know. You can even put that in the chat so I can follow up with you. Okay, so the other thing is, in addition to email notifications, it will place a red badge next to their Messenger in the main navigation menu. That way, the next time they log in, it'll also have that little cue there telling them that they have a new message. And if they have a mobile app on their smartphone or their tablet, both, it's going to send an instant push notification as long as they have the push notifications enabled for the OnBoard app. So that's kind of the mechanics of it. I want to talk about a couple more things you can do. So you can put hyperlinks. So for example, let's say that you wanted to have some discussion around an article or something, right? You could type a URL or paste the URL and it will be clickable. You can also make your messages formatted a little bit nicer. If I just were typing, it would be kind of one big long group of text. So for example, here you can see some previous messages. There's a link. Here is kind of a grouping of 3 different messages sent at different times, but within relatively the same time frame. But if you want to add spacing, there's a little trick to that. You can type, let me do it over under my test. So here is how to create a line break. So you can use the Shift and the Enter key on your keyboard to add extra lines if you want to put like breaks in between. So, whoops. So now you can see after I posted it, you know, so if you want to have spacing, then the key there is to use like the Shift plus your Enter key to add those line breaks. Again, URLs are super easy. You can even use emojis or emoticons, whatever you call them. When you're on your phone or your mobile device, that's super easy. They come right up for you. When you're on your laptop or desktop like I am, again, there's shortcut keys pretty much for everything. So on a Windows, I push my Windows icon on my keyboard and the semicolon. I've looked that up. So you can see down here, it says tip, press the Windows icon plus, well, this says a period. I use the semicolon. So there's probably some, and now I can add, you know, different things like that if I want. Kind of silly. We will be adding some features like being able to actually attach documents. The other thing with URLs, I'm going to find one here, this one. So if you look at it, it's not the prettiest, it's kind of long, but it's referencing onboard.passageway.com and resource viewer. That's because this is actually linking to an item in my resource center. You can also do this with meetings. So one of the use cases might be, let's say you published your meeting, it's all visible, you received some additional presentation or an updated report, and you update your meeting. Now, how are you going to communicate out to that committee or that board group that you've just made a change? Messenger is one easy way to do that, right? You can compose a message, select the appropriate group or groups and individuals if you need to do both. And then you can simply go to your calendar, click on the meeting, and the URL at the top is specific to the meeting page. In fact, if you even wanted to land them on the open book view, if I go find one here that has an open book, if you actually click open book and then grab that URL and copy it, that is specific to the open book view. So you're saving them from even having to click the open book button. So now I can go back to Messenger and I can say, please note, I can't type. And I just pasted that in. And now, provided that they have access to, you know, that meeting and they click on it, if they're doing so from their browser, you can see it's opening in a new tab. And as soon as it refreshes here and processes, it's going to land me in the open book view. So that's a little tip here. Let's see if it will load on including links in Messenger that point to something inside of OnBoard. So here you can see it's taking me right into the open book view. The same thing can apply to, I'll just close that, to your resources. You can go to resources, you can click on a resource, dive in or drill in and actually click on the item, right? So here is a board accountability document. So I've clicked on it, it's starting to display on the right. The URL at the top is now specific to this resource document. So again, you have to copy first, then go to Messenger, and then please review this as a pre-read. You know, sometimes you have policy reviews or large sets of information that maybe you don't want your board book to be, you know, expanded or increased by the size of maybe a policy document, but you want them to look at it because you're going to be talking about it or making some decisions. Maybe you don't put that in your board book. You could even either paste that in Messenger as part of like pre-read, or you can also do that in a meeting, right? So in a calendar, in a meeting, you can also go in and paste that same URL into the description field. And here in a moment, we're going to see that it's clickable. So hopefully that tip is something that you can use, even if you're not using Messenger, right? If you want to send your own email and you want to give them a direct link to something like a resource document or to a meeting, just grab the URL specific to that item. And then you're probably going to want to do like make it a hyperlink with a friendly name, perhaps, rather than pasting the whole URL. Let me show just a couple more things here on Messenger. So other use cases would be committee work, right? So in between your meetings, your governing council, your audit committee, they can be using this to have discussions or, you know, work on action items in between their meetings. And then these threaded conversations are not in their email. Yes, they get an email that tells them to come into OnBoard, but they don't have to worry about somebody breaking the thread because somebody forgets to reply all to an email, which happens. And they know that they can always come into OnBoard and find that thread and pick right back up on it. So it's convenient for them as well as being secure, right? Because everything inside of OnBoard, you have to sign in and it's all encrypted and only visible when you're in OnBoard. So committee work, you pushing out information. You can also do topical things. So here I have this topic new website review. So this is a little bit of a trick or tip. Let's say you want to have a discussion focused on a specific topic. What you can do is in your directory, go to your groups and just make a group on a topic. The people in the group could be the same people in your board group or in another group. It doesn't matter. You can have the same population of people in more than one group. And now my group name represents a topic. So you create the group first if you want to use this little trick. Then you go into Messenger and you can see what I did was I composed a message. And in my groups, I just picked that group. Now, if I go to compose a message for a group that already has a message, it's going to take me right back into that thread. So let me see if you guys have any questions or any like other examples, especially if you're using Messenger. I would love to know how you're using it, and if you're not, and that's why you're here, and you've thought of some other things as I've been sharing this, as far as use cases, there are plenty of different ones out there. Okay. All right, so that's Messenger. If you have it, but you have not started using it, you might want to be proactive in terms of pushing out some like guidelines or training information to your members. And what you can do is you can go into the help and go to our help center, and under the guides and videos, that is going to launch a new tab, and you can use this for anything. In our help center here, you can either search for topic related resources, And here's one from Messenger. So here's an article on how to send and receive messages with OnBoard Messenger. You could actually, share this out or pull from this if you want to implement using Messenger. You don't have to start from scratch. This even has screenshots in it. You could direct them to this article. You could even take this article and maybe devise a way on your dashboard to use your announcement to send out tips, right? So once you've launched OnBoard and people are getting comfortable with using it for its core features and benefits, maybe you institute some kind of a weekly or bi-weekly pro tip about OnBoard. And why not send it from OnBoard to reinforce the use of OnBoard? So you could even make an announcement. So you could add a new announcement and say, OnBoard pro tip, Messenger. And then, put in some kind of information. We are planning to begin using this, right? And then paste the URL from the article. And then you could say, oops, let me cut that out. So I could say, go here for step by and then paste that. And then you could pick your groups that you want to see that and publish that. And then that'll send that population of people, all members, or if you pick specific groups. Now it's published. So it's sitting here on your dashboard right here. This one's pinned, which is why it's blue. So this one fell below it. And then they can go here and look for instructions. So if you're trying to introduce new features thoughtfully that would benefit and expand the use of OnBoard and benefit your group, maybe do some kind of an OnBoard pro tip and start making that a regular thing. Okay, so any thoughts or questions on Messenger? Sweet, thanks, Kyle. Okay. I want to show you, let's see, we've got tasks. Tasks, again, you may not have tasks. If you click on tasks in your menu and you don't have it as part of your plan, it's going to show you a preview page. And let me move this out of the way. That preview page is going to look kind of like this, but it's going to have a box overlaid saying, you don't have this as part of your plan. There's a button to learn more, and that can be clicked on. So tasks is what you might think it is, a way to record things that you need to take care of. These could be if you have deadlines leading up to your meeting, whereby you request the CFO send you their information, marketing or academic affairs, or depending on what industry you're in, right? You maybe request that they give you their reports and their supporting materials that go with the meeting agenda, or maybe a full business board meeting. You can create tasks, and if they are users of OnBoard, then that can help you with those, that workflow leading up to a meeting. When you're in a meeting and you want to create action items, or there are action items being spoken, and maybe you're recording the minutes or someone else is, you can also quickly be adding them as tasks. So you can create a new task and give it a name. Please remember to fill out your OnBoard profiles, right? So if you're brand new and you have tasks, you could be using it as a way to reinforce the use of OnBoard, also to accomplish something like asking your members to fill out their profiles. You can give it a due date and time. And then you could do something like, click on your name in the left-hand navigation, choose profile and settings, and on the profile tab, add your picture and other details you would like to be available. And I can't type. Thank goodness for spell check. And then if it's new, great, you can mark it in progress. You can give it a priority, high, normal, low, low priority. And then you can assign it. So initially it's going to by default assign it just to you. But if you want to assign it out to your group, you can actually start to type the name of your groups. So if I start to type board, anything that matches, so here's my board of directors group, and then once I save and close, this task is being assigned to all of them and they will get an email. You can also add viewers. So maybe somebody is wanting to monitor the completion, but they don't have to actually, they're not an assignee, right? So you could add a specific person. So again, you start to type someone's name and it will, put them in there. A cool thing too is if you want to link a task to a meeting, you can actually start to type a name of a meeting as well. So now when I save this, it's in the task list, and you can see I have tasks assigned to me, I have tasks due this week, I can click onto these. Once you complete a task, you can have a running history. You can see which groups of mine have tasks, what meetings do I have associated tasks to. So if you don't already have some kind of a project planning tool that you're using, you might want to explore this. If you have tasks, definitely think about how to leverage it, even if you're only assigning tasks to yourself. Any questions about tasks? Sorry, Gloria, I just noticed you asked a question about can this be seen if you are an admin. I'm not sure if that was about tasks. I didn't see when you typed it as compared to what I was showing.
It was about task. I know that
okay.
you have, certain people assigned to those tasks and then the viewers. But so I was wondering if, take me, for example, if I'm an admin, would I still be able to see this, or I'd have to make myself a viewer, or is that specific just to this part of dashboard?
Yeah, so if you are the one creating the task, it will default to assign it to yourself. And then you'll be the assignee. If someone else is creating it and they do not put you on it as a viewer, you won't even know that tasks is being used by your organization. So this is another thing that I mentioned. I have some visibility into your activity to know and help you with, hey, you might want to think about, using this feature. So I would be able to know, but let me know if I'm not answering your question or understanding, right? You would not have visibility unless you either assigned it to yourself or the person creating it assigned it to you or put you as a viewer. Not automatically. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. So again, I am always happy to look and see what might be going on that you might not be aware of. So, all right. So that's tasks, and it's smart. It's actually smart. So if I was actually in a meeting, so that kind of use case of during a meeting, you want to quickly be assigning tasks out as you are recording the activity in the minutes, you could actually be in a meeting. So I could be in a meeting doing whatever I'm doing, maybe looking at the book or looking at the, whatever the case might be. Maybe I'm reviewing attendance. And then I go over here and I click on tasks. It's actually already associating the task to the meeting. So it's already smart enough to know I'm in the meeting while I'm creating the task. Are any of you using tasks? I don't think so. Kim, I don't think you guys have tasks, right? I don't think GGU has tasks right now. Okay, And Kyle, no. Okay, so.
Yes, we have it, and I've used it, and it's fantastic.
That's right. I couldn't remember. Thanks, Kim. What were there some other examples maybe that you would be open to sharing? Trying to remember what we've talked about.
I use it just primarily to make sure that the committee members are on track for preparing their materials for the meeting. So I tell them 2 weeks out, start preparing, and then I give them another task that is the deadline a week before.
Okay. That's right. Yeah. And you can work with your members on how you would like for them to use tasks, right? We can only ask that they may not do that, even if we ask, but you could ask them to, for example, let me go back to all my tasks, and you could ask them to update the note fields, right? So maybe they could give you like updates like September 23rd. I added my bio, but not my picture, right? So they could even like use the description field to give partial updates.
Right.
So, okay. All right, thank you, Kim. So that's tasks. I want to talk about analytics. Again, some of you have this, maybe not all of you, but if you do, take advantage of it. And I'm going to show you some cool things that you can do. So I'm going to go to a meeting where I know I have some activity. So when you're on your meeting page, look to see if you have this analytics button. And if you click on it and you have analytics, it will actually, display information. It will, if you don't have analytics, it might display a preview similar to this, grayed out with that box overlaying it, saying, you don't have this as part of your plan, but you can kind of get a sneak peek behind it as to what it provides. So we are now looking at the meeting analytics for a specific meeting. At the top, you can see, like if it was a countdown to when the meeting was supposed to begin, this one was in the past, how many people had access, how many groups, and if you're using the RSVP, that's a quick way to also get a snapshot of how many have RSVP'd. As a reminder, just really quickly, on the back here, if you want to know more specifically about the RSVP, that's where you'll use the attendance. And now I can see, oh, it was me that RSVP, nobody else did, right? So if you want that more detail. Okay, so back to the analytics. We've got 4 panels. Shoot, I might have to go find a different one. So the first 2 panels are related to the meeting. So we have meeting views and we have book views, and we have pie chart, and we also have line graph. Or timeline. So here, I can quickly hover over this, and this tells me 45% of the 10 people who have access have viewed this. I can't see who has not with this, but it is something that you can quickly get an idea of, are people engaging with this material? Are they viewing the meeting? If I switch to the line graph, I see I have administrator, you can have contributors and readers. So we separate them out in different colors. And we also have, like, here is the orange dot that represents when I published the meeting versus the red dot with the line is the day of the meeting. So you can see, and if you release your meeting and you do meeting visible, agenda visible, published, or maybe you republish because you did an update or something, you'll see these orange dots, and then you can see how many people are interacting. Now this is an aggregate, so the line is always going to go up. If I view the meeting 10 times, I'm going to be recorded as 10. So the line's going to go up. So don't worry so much about the number as much as are people looking at it in advance. So here's the meeting. Are people looking at it in advance of the meeting, or are they waiting until the last minute and then it spikes? So the meeting view represents that they landed on this page, but they didn't look at any materials. If they've looked at any of the materials, and it doesn't matter if they can click on a document, which takes them into the book view, or they can click open book. Either of those count as a book view. So under analytics, under book views, and there's little question marks here that give you like, okay, what am I looking at? What does this mean, right? Again, I had 45% looked at the meeting, but only 27% actually looked at the materials. That might present a question to yourself of, how are they getting the materials? How are they preparing for the meeting? And look at this meeting over meeting, right? Board over board, committee over committee. If these pie, the blue pieces of the pie are not improving, you might want to offer some training, or if you are still providing them the option to get their materials emailed to them, that's probably an indication if this blue piece of the pie is pretty small, probably means that they're sticking with status quo and still relying on getting materials emailed to them. So if you really want to leverage this investment, this financial investment that your institution or organization has made in OnBoard, you have to think about being a little tough love and stop giving them a crutch, perhaps. Just The other things that you can see are, what are the top 5 areas that are getting the most views? And it tells you they have to spend at least 30 seconds on a section to be counted as a view. So if they really are reading the materials, depending on, obviously the length or the detailed nature, this will just give you an indication of what are people looking at. And this might be like, man, this statement on board accountability, that's the core of what our meeting's about. Nobody looked at it. We have a problem. Why is nobody looking at our strategic plan that we're supposed to be talking about? Right? So it tells you what they are looking at, but also what they're not looking at. And then if you are curious, are your members using the annotation tools? This will give you some insight. So right now on this one, I didn't have any. And being that this is my demo org, I'm probably not going to have very many meetings that I have made annotations on. But this is really important for a couple of things. One, just knowing, are any of my members using the note-taking tools in OnBoard? The other thing, and this can be really important, is if you received, let's say you published the meeting, and then you get an updated presentation. This will help you to know, and it'll look similar to what we see over here on the right? So if it says over here on the annotation side, 3 big things, and it has some activity, that means people have already been making notes on that. If I delete that 3 big things presentation and replace it with a different version, those 2 notes are gone. So if you are like, I published it, gosh, I don't know, have people looked at it or not? Have they made annotations or not? You can use this to know, okay, good, nobody's made annotations, I'm free to remove the old version and add the new. Or if you see that they have made annotations, you might be like, page 5 of the presentation changed. I'm just going to upload a new page 5 and leave the entire previous version, and then maybe use Messenger to communicate out, hey, just want to alert everybody, I just added, a replacement of page 5 under the 3 big things section. So Kyle asked about the specific users. So depending on the package or plan that you have, you might have the opportunity to enable something that we call global admin. So Kyle, I'll have to look, and for others, I'll have to look as well. Global admin is something that if you have it, you have to enable it, and it actually will allow you to run reports and slice and dice the information over a period of time that you choose. And then you can see who's signing in, who's not signing in, what are they doing? What are they looking at? Are they looking at resources? Are they opening the book? Are they RSVPing? Trying to think what else. Are they making annotations, right? So that maybe you can identify champions or advocates and kind of work with them to maybe help promote something at a meeting, or people that might need a little bit extra assistance. So cool. I'll check on that for you, Kyle, and for anybody else. Kim, not to pick on you, but I know that GDU has that enabled, and we've talked about it a little bit. So it can be one of those things that, you know, you might use sporadically to look at things, right? I know
yes, it was particularly important in the beginning to identify those board members that weren't with it at all and weren't using the tool at all. Mm-hmm. And those who were, as you say, super users who could help us to promote the use of the tool.
Awesome.
And yeah. I just wanted to say, going back to your pie charts and the line graphs, mm-hmm. on the data analytics, we thought about using the global admin data, as you know, for a presentation to the board. Mm-hmm. And we may do that in the future with regards to a specific tool or activity, but the screenshots that Audrey did of the mm-hmm. analytics tool were so nice, and the board was really impressed. So she was able to show, both. She did screenshots of both the pie chart and the line graph so they could see them at the same time. Mm-hmm. It ended up really as a very impressive short presentation.
That's good, because so what Kim's talking about is Kim and her colleague Audrey were working on something, and you know, they were asked to present on how is this going, right? Which is awesome. I love that, you know, they wanted to have an update. You know, we made this investment, how is it being used? So rather than, you know, yes, you could have used your global admin and slice and dice and do a bunch of stuff like on short notice, these kind of, you know, dashboard type pie charts, line charts, just taking screenshots and sharing those looks very professional, and, you know, accomplishes in probably many cases what would be the right amount of information. And then if I think you guys decided, right, Kim, that if they want more, they can ask, and then you can decide if you need to drill in. But, you know, start small, see what they ask for.
Right. And it just, awesome. You know, it just moves the conversation about we're new to OnBoard. So it moved the conversation away from, do you like it or don't you like it? It moved
I love it.
More towards a more rigorous analysis of what exactly are we engaging with and what is it helping us to do.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, and this could be complemented by even a survey too. Like if you did want to get more specific, like how from trustees, directors, senior leaders, like that have started using it for a few meetings, you could even do a survey through OnBoard and ask them very specific, how has OnBoard helped you prepare for the meeting, or so you could also kind of combine some of these things together. Great. Okay, so the last thing that I was going to share, and let me kind of poll you guys, because I know we've got like just 15 minutes or shy of, is some advanced permissions. And what I'm kind of referring to is the ability to do things like have contributors to your meetings, right? So that you can start to delegate out, or like as Kim was saying, maybe those committee chairs or senior leaders that go to those committee meetings for those kind of functional areas that are experts, if they're curating the content, rather than them sending it to you for you to place in OnBoard, you might want to think about implementing over time, letting them be contributors. So, and just to kind of show how that could work if you're not using that is you might have people in your directory that you just have members, right? They're just consumers. But perhaps at a meeting, you know that they have this big presentation and they're probably going to be working on it to the very last minute, or maybe it's just, you know, they're comfortable with technology. And why not let them put it in there versus trying to email it to you and then it's too big and you can't get it and now you're having to do Dropbox or something else. You already have a platform for that. So when you have a meeting, if you want to start to think about contributors, you have a couple of options. You can either make them a contributor at the meeting level by saying, you know, Nathan is a part of this group and that entire group is set as a reader. But, you know, Nathan is going to be facilitating and presenting several of the agenda items. So for his, I'm just going to go ahead and make him a contributor. So now when Nathan signs in, and I'll cancel that, but when Nathan signs in, he'll see edit next to the agenda items. He won't be able to edit any of the top portion. He can't change who's an attendee or do anything like that or publish the meeting. He can contribute to the meeting and he can contribute to all of the meeting in terms of all agenda items. Conversely, let's say, you know, Nathan is going to do this one section on 3 big things. So I'm going to make him just a reader of the meeting, but then I'm going to go here and I'm going to use this permission section members. And now it's going to show me the same permissions as the whole meeting has. But now for this section, I can edit it and say, I want Nathan to be a contributor, but only of this section. So now when Nathan logs in, he'll only see edit next to B, nothing else. So that's one way you can start to make people more involved in the process. Another would be if you aren't omitting people from sections, like your in-camera or your executive session, your closed sessions, and you want to upload the materials that the board should see, but not the leadership that also attends the meeting. In that case, if you have a section, and let's see, maybe we're doing some kind of an investment overview and only the board should see that. You can go in and do the same thing with permissioning the section members, but this time you can say, Carissa needs to be excluded. How did I do that? Same thing. Nathan needs to be excluded from that section. So now when Nathan logs in and he opens the meeting book, if there is supporting information under this 3C Foundation Investment Overview, he won't see the content, he'll just see blank pages. That way he can be literally following on the same page. His, you know, that section will just appear and tell him that he doesn't have access, but he can still, you know, stay on the same literal page in case after that section it picks back up and he can see the material. So those are a few things that you can do there. With permissions. Okay, I know a few folks had to jump off. I appreciate you guys hanging in. Are there anything about any of the topics for today, or since you have me, if you have anything else, maybe even unrelated, I'm happy to answer those, something that you're thinking about or having trouble with.
I have something, Jenny, but if there's someone else, since I've contributed a couple times already.
No, I appreciate it. It looks like you're good. Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Okay, so we have made the meetings and the meeting materials visible a lot earlier than we thought we would. because the board members requested that so that they could go in and sort of see what was available. And of course, things may change in terms of the materials. They may get edited or deleted or new things added, which they will be notified about. But they still wanted to have that opportunity to see, you know, how the books were progressing. So that's been wonderful, and we're getting things in and uploaded a lot in a much more timely way.
Okay.
My question though is, it has circumvented our previous process of having the president approve all of the materials. So now everybody's empowered as a contributor. They don't wait for him to approve it. Do you have any suggestions on what we might do in terms of an approval process?
Well, I'm trying to think. I mean, the way that the meeting is set up, you can control who has access and what their visibility is. When you say like approval, like as soon as you make it all visible, right, whoever is in the attendees can see everything.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is going to kind of work against you, just off the top of my head, because, you know, you could always create the agenda and only set the president first. Don't set the rest of the group or groups or people, and first make it just all visible to the to your president.
Right.
But then, it's not quite visible yet to everyone. So
right. We have done that. He is actually now included as an administrator.
So he can see it even when it's like unpublished or something.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay,
right now, let me think about that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to create two documents, right, or two things.
No.
So I'll talk to you, maybe I have a couple more questions, maybe just to kind of work through that and see if I can think of something else. Because is the president wanting to approve the agenda and its contents, or just like, and the documents, or just like the agenda?
Everything, including
Everything.
the materials. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
there's
he
like
might
some give
say,
and take.
he might say, for example, oh, let's not include that report. It's too detailed. The other one that's shorter is just fine. And then it would
you can't really have it both ways. You can't really have it both ways, right? Because so there's a bit of a, what takes priority? How strongly do you, Mr. President, right, feel about wanting to hold things back until you've given the final okay, versus acknowledging the needs and the requests of your constituents or your stakeholders, and there has to be.
You're right, and that's well said, and that's what I will attempt to repeat to him when we meet again on this topic. And I think he's going to land on the side of increased transparency, because it's actually very rare that he makes a change.
Okay, well then in that case, maybe it's not as detrimental, because you certainly wouldn't necessarily want someone to have spent a lot of time reviewing something that then gets pulled out, right? Because if they are trying to be proactive and prepare, then that might have a negative response to where then people stop looking ahead of time because they know that it might change, and then they don't want to spend a lot of time, right? So that's tricky. That's a tricky one.
I think we will land on the side of just letting everybody add things ahead of time. And I guess if they need his approval, they should be doing that, a couple of weeks ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me see what Kim is saying here in the chat. Yeah, so Kim Hill is kind of saying back to that, rather than maybe having a couple of contributors rather than a bunch of people. Yeah, it kind of just probably depends on each. I'll have to look at that a little more. The chair can either approve. Yeah, so Kim, and feel free to unmute, because the other thing is, like, you could make it agenda visible, where the contributors can be contributing and the materials aren't quite available, but only the agenda is, right? But Kim Hill, what do you?
Yeah, hi, my kids are in the background, so I keep myself muted. But I've got them baking cookies and things. Anyway, in the instance of a couple of our board meetings, I set myself and one and maybe two other people as administrators on it. So people, like some of the chairs of the committees, will send me documents that they want, or they want in the agenda, but really it's just down to myself and the main chair of the board, who really decides what's going to stay and what's going to be there or not. So that, sure, people are sending me things, but I'm the gatekeeper, so everything goes through me. So there's only me and one other person that ever can contribute or put anything onto OnBoard.
But so Kim, do you though put it, like, as it's coming in, do you start to attach it to your agenda items, or do you and another person look at it outside of OnBoard before you know what I mean, like a pre-approval before it's even in OnBoard?
Yeah, it's sort of, we say, we know what we're going to need. So say like some of the committee reports. So we know that those are going to need to be there. And so we request them from the individuals, they send them to us, and then I put them out. So there's not a lot of I guess I don't maybe publish it to the finalized copy. I can kind of give them the view, but maybe I don't publish it. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking of it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? So one other thing that I just thought of for both of you guys, and I've had a few groups do this where they have, a lot of different committee chairs or senior leaders that are, sending over their content that needs to go in the board book. I've had some groups create a resource folder and you can make other people admins. And so almost like as part of your workflow, you could have a folder for all of your meetings and even a folder for that meeting where everybody drops their admins of the resource folder. So they drop all the materials in there. And then in your case, Kim Van Eyck, the president could also be able to see it there. And I've even had groups, so let me just show kind of real quick here. Let's just say this is like pre-work for meeting XYZ. And then in that, you might have a folder for under review, and then maybe one for approved. Yeah, and then you would make the people that need to be admins that have the content, instead of them emailing it to you, they can just drop it into the folder. And then you instruct them to add all of that into the under review folder. So, I'll just put, so and they can even check this box, because then it would alert anyone who has access to that folder that new material has been added, right? So that you would know, okay, great, there's more things under review. Only the people that have permission to the folder see it. It uploads it, and then whoever needs to review it somehow would then be able to, and of course I added something really big, so then they can move, they can move it to the approved. So like, let's say the president has the final say, they could look at the materials and then they can say, okay, this one's ready to go. I'm going to move it to the approved. That still kind of means you're waiting for that approval before you put it into the board book. I don't know. And maybe this could be a use case for something else of a workflow even, even if it's not this particular scenario, but I have seen not many, but a couple of groups do something like that where they're not quite ready to let people contribute directly into the meeting, but they want them to not email all their materials, which is a waste. They can just drop them right into a folder.
I like that a lot. I think that's a great option.
Yeah, great. Well, so maybe you and Audrey, yeah, you guys can think about that. Okay, well, thank you guys. I'm so happy that you were on and that we were able to talk about a couple of other things, and appreciate your time. So you'll get the recording tomorrow. So Kim, if you want to share it with Audrey, or if anybody wants to share it out, feel free to do that. And yeah, reach out to me like always if you want to talk about anything specific.
Okay, thank you so much, Jenny.
Thanks, ladies. Bye.